Hey guys, thanks for joining me again this week. We're going to be doing something a little bit different today. We're going to be doing a quasi-review, more like a first impressions, of watercolor pencils. Now I'm sure you guys have been in the art store and you can tell there are thousands upon thousands of variations of different types of products that you can get. A lot of it's kind of gimmicky. I never really got into things like paint sticks or paint pencils, things that are supposed to be kind of like bridging media over. But that said, I thought maybe I'd try something a little bit new, and I just picked up a package of watercolor pencils. I've never used them before, so I got nothing to tell you about this brand versus another one. As far as pencils go, Staedtler in the past has been pretty good. Granted, all of my pencils are well over a decade old. They tend to last so long, and they're so inexpensive. So with that in mind, I'm not going to really call this a review, just see if in general watercolor pencils are kind of worth the effort. So first downside, I guess, these particular pencils, although an interesting shape, don't seem to fit any of my sharpeners. And you can't erase anything either. So you're jumping in with these things, you gotta treat them just like normal colored pencils, and you can't make mistakes. Yeah, and when in doubt, bust out the knife. On the plus side though, it feels just like a regular colored pencil, no real difference. The paper I'm using, however, is not too conducive to pencils, which is a little bit rough. It's kind of nice though, just hitting it with some clean water and instantly you've got something that looks like a typical watercolor painting. Not too bad as like a underpainting or starter for a painting. I don't think I'd end it right here. It just feels a little incomplete, more like just a quick watercolor sketch. So I'll finish out the rest of the painting as I normally would with my liquid watercolors. I think in general, the watercolor pencils are kind of nice. They kind of bring a missing feature, I think, to watercolor painting. When I worked with oil paint, I spent a lot of time on underpaintings, and it's not something that I get to do with watercolor because the brightest white you're going to get is the paper. And that's really important. You have to keep in mind what the final state of the painting is going to look like. Now, you can kind of cheat a little bit with using some either white watercolor paint or white gouache, but typically the brightest brights are going to be the ones that are the most transparent, and you can see the most of the paper through. So I try not to do anything where you can really cut out most of the original white, because you don't really know how far you need to go by the end. And you know, in general, watercolor paint is not something like oil. It gives you a little bit less freedom, and the watercolor itself is going to end up doing more work for you than you may even want it to. Whereas with something like an oil paint or an acrylic, you know, the medium is really just kind of putting its hands up and letting you take control. Watercolor itself just kind of does its own thing. You're kind of running with it along this little adventure and hopefully ending up with something that looks nice. So the pencils do feel like they kind of wrestle back some of that uncertainty and do let you plan your painting a little bit better, which is really rather nice. But it is important to know what you want out of the medium. Something like watercolor, you're typically going for little bit more loose, and a little bit more chaotic, the end result ends up being very pretty, and you can produce paintings that look rather pleasant very fast. In fact, probably one of the better ways to sketch. I really don't advise sketching, quote-unquote, with oil paint. Maybe acrylic paint, but even that, not so much. But you can sketch with watercolor pretty successfully. That's why you see a lot of watercolor kits that are meant to be just put in your back pocket so you can work with it on the go. You don't see that for oil paint or acrylic paint. They're really meant to be sat down in a studio and worked with. But I like to take watercolor personally somewhere else, and I'll tell you why. I think there is benefits to each medium, and you kind of have to weigh what you like. Working with oil, that's what I studied primarily in my undergrad, and the big reason was it allowed me to make the most mistakes. If I had messed up an area, I could just grab my palette knife and I could scrape the paint right out and it's gone. A little spot's giving me trouble, the paint takes so long to dry that I have a long time to fiddle with it. And like I said, if I mess up, you can scrape it out, try again, repeat, so on and so forth. But that comes with some downsides too, of course. Paintings can take a really long time to dry in general, so if you do manage to finish it fairly quickly, or even if you're done in like a week or two, you still have to wait a couple weeks until it's dry. Technically, you have to wait up to 6 months until it's completely dry all the way to the core. If you paint even thicker, you might have to wait a couple years, which can be a little ridiculous if you ask me. But I think watercolor has the possibility of allowing you to work on something quickly and still create something that is rather nice. It's not as forgiving, but I do tend to still paint watercolor paintings as if they're oil paintings, and I do try to really push this medium further than it typically goes. There's a certain type of look and feel that I like for my artwork, and I think I can get that with watercolor, and I've been pushing the medium to do this for me. And with that said, I think these watercolor pencils might be a pretty legit addition to that arsenal. So I'll say my final word is on these pencils: if you are comfortable drawing and you would like to do more with watercolor, but you need more control, just like you have with the pencils, and you're not really interested in a painting that kind of does random shit that you're not going to be able to fix, I think these are worth picking up. Yes, they're a good bridge from drawing to watercolor painting, but if you treat it like an underpainting and then follow up with more realized layers on top, you can probably achieve something a little bit greater than you could otherwise. So I'm going to say that's a thumbs up from me. Pencils in general are not expensive. I was able to pick this guy up on sale for 15 bucks, and they'll probably last me a couple years, if not a decade or more, depending on how heavily I use them. So it's worthwhile. So yeah, if you want to pick these particular pencils up, I've got a link in the description. They're going for as low as 7 bucks, so that's a pretty legit deal for something that's probably going to last you a brutally long time. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you can. Share it with a couple friends. And I'll see you guys again next Wednesday with another painting.